Hi everyone. So let's go ahead and start our chapter 22 here, looking at the immune system. So before we start, let's just talk about how massive the immune system can actually be, discussing this immune system, or this organ system that actually doesn't even have any organs that are going to be part of it, but it is one of these that are in the book that's very abbreviated because of the complexity of the system. So that's kind of something that you need to keep in mind, is that the book and what we're going to cover is a super abbreviated version of what the immune system can actually do. So, if you're thinking, well, I heard this about the immune system, but she didn't talk about it, or anything like that, then I probably didn't, because we don't have a whole lot of time to cover it, and neither does the book. There's lots of universities that take an entire year to cover the immune system. So that's going to be how complex this system is. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the immune system does for us. So the main function is to protect us from those infectious agents and harmful substances. And usually you don't even realize that our body is doing this, and that's the beauty of the immune system. So what we're going to be talking about is, as I had mentioned before, is the fact that out of all of those organ systems that you learned in chapter, I don't remember what chapter it is, but in 2401, or the immune system is not technically an organ system, because of the fact that there is no organs that are part of it. It's mainly going to be cellular components, and also these molecular structures as well. But of course, they are huge. They play a huge role in our body's defense system. So together, they function together. These two, the cellular and molecular structures, are going to provide us with something called immunity, which is going to hopefully keep us healthy. And yeah, we still get sick, but you would be amazed at how often we don't get sick because of this wonderful immune system that we have. So what we're going to start off first with looking at this function dependent on specific type of infectious agent. So we're going to be taking a look first off at some infectious agents. Later on, we'll talk about other things that can elicit an immune response as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at first, infectious agents, which is section 1 here. So we're going to be looking at the 5 major classes, and then we're going to be talking about something called prions as well. So we're not going to go into great detail about these infectious agents, mainly because you have already taken microbiology, you're in the process of taking microbiology, or you will take microbiology eventually. And that's what microbiology is for, is to get into the little details of these different infectious agents. So we're just going to kind of brush through them a little bit, just talk about some important things that we want to look at. So infectious agents, first of all, organisms that cause damage, sometimes can cause death to the host organism. So anytime that they actually do cause harm, they are going to be termed pathogenic. So that's important, because later on, especially when we get into the digestive system, we'll talk about how we have some non-pathogenic bacteria that's going to be found in the gut. So it's important to make sure you know the difference between pathogenic and non-pathogenic. So we're going to take a look at bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoans, multicellular parasites. Those are the 5 major categories. And then we're going to be taking a look at something called prions. So let's first start with our little friends, the bacteria here. They are going to be single-celled prokaryotes, and they are going to be very small cells. They're about 1 to 2 micrometers, which is about the size of a mitochondria. So yes, you need a microscope to be able to see them. And look, there's a nice little microscope picture over here that is showing us some bacteria. They are going to have a plasma membrane. They also have a cell wall. They are going to have DNA. All of that good stuff that you might remember back in 1406 about the difference between, of course, prokaryotes and eukaryotes. So there are different types, and it really has a lot to do with their shape, but there's going to be a little bit more to it that you'll learn in microbiology. But you have spherical, cocci, rod-like, bacilli, and then you have coiled as well. So a lot of these are harmless. Like I mentioned before, you have a lot of non-pathogenic bacteria found on your skin, found in the gut, found in the vagina, a lot of different places, and we'll talk about the benefit of those when we get to it. But some of them can have an increase in virulence, and virulence is going to be the ability to cause a serious illness. Usually if they have this capsule, it says that some have a sticky polysaccharide capsule. And if they have a capsule, that actually increases their virulence, which is kind of interesting, right? Some of them are going to have these hair-like pili as well. And what those do is they are going to be these structures that act like kind of Velcro, that help the bacteria attach to surfaces or structures better. Some of them produce enzymes or toxin to also help with virulence as well. So some of the diseases that are caused by bacteria are going to be like strep throat, any kind of staph infection, tuberculosis, syphilis, diphtheria, tetanus. Tetanus is one of those that is the bacteria where it produces enzymes and or toxins. Lyme disease, that's going to be passed on through a tick, salmonella, anthrax. So that is just a handful that are going to be caused by bacteria there. So again, once you get to microbiology, you'll actually learn the genus and species names of a lot of different bacteria. So just wait until then. All right, let's take a look at our next one. These are going to be viruses. Viruses are so interesting because they are not actually a cell. They are going to be pieces of DNA or RNA, and they're going to be found in this protein shell called a capsid. There's the term right there. They are smaller than a bacteria as well, and they're interesting because they are obligate intracellular parasites, meaning that they have to enter a cell in order to reproduce. If they don't have a cell, then they cannot reproduce. So they must enter the cell in order to reproduce. So it goes through the specifics on reproduction, how infected cell is going to synthesize copies of that DNA or RNA in the capsid. The viral particles are going to be formed within the infected cells, and then it's going to be released from them to actually infect the surrounding cells. So we'll look at something called interferons later on and talk about how these are very, very potent to help stop viral infections, because they are going to kind of go in and stop this from happening. They stop reproduction, the entire reproduction from happening. But that's what's interesting is once they go in and reproduce, once they go in and synthesize these extra copies of their DNA, then they are going to release them so they can go in and infect the cells that are going to be right next to them and surrounding them. And ultimately that cell is going to die because of that virus. Or hopefully the immune system is going to catch it, and the immune system will kill that cell because of it. So some of the different viruses or the different diseases that are caused by a virus, that's what I'm trying to look for, are going to be the cold, the flu, the things that we know of: polio, mumps, measles, hepatitis, rubella, chickenpox, Ebola, herpes, HIV. Those are all going to be viruses. If you take a look at these, a lot of them we actually are going to have vaccinations for, right? We have MMR, which is the measles, mumps, rubella vaccination. We have a chickenpox vaccination and things like that. So I wish we had vaccinations for other ones, but we don't have them for all of them. It's difficult because of the fact that these viruses mutate like crazy. So that's why, it's hard to go in and get the exact perfect flu shot for everyone because of the fact that they mutate like crazy. We'll talk about vaccinations later on, so we'll get into that a little bit later. All right, let's take a look at our next one, which is going to be fungi. These are going to be eukaryotes. So they are going to have a plasma membrane. They are going, and their cell wall is going to be external to that plasma membrane. So this is going to be where you have your molds, you're going to have your yeast, and you're going to have multicellular fungi as well. So these are going to be the ones that kind of produce, not kind of, they produce spores. A lot of what fungi do is they are going to release proteolytic enzymes, and what that does, it kind of enhances or induces inflammation on the skin. So that causes redness and swelling. So here in the US, most of the fungi diseases are going to be superficial. So superficial diseases, so things that are going to affect our skin and our scalp and our nails, like ringworm, diaper rash, jock itch, athlete's foot. But you do have some that will go in and infect mucosal lining. There's yeast infections. Or cause internal infection like histoplasmosis, which is going to affect the respiratory system. All right, let's take a look at our next ones, which are protozoans. And actually our next two, protozoans and multicellular parasites. So here's our little protozoans there. Protozoans are going to be also eukaryotes, but they do not have a cell wall. They do a variety of things. They can be intracellular, they can be extracellular parasites, and what they do is they interfere with normal cellular function. It really just depends on the protozoan, and that is going to kind of give you an idea of what normal cellular function it is going to interfere with. So diseases that are caused by protozoans: malaria, toxoplasmosis, giardia, leishmaniasis, trichomoniasis, that's maniasis, moniasis, and then African sleeping sickness. So those are just some of the few. And then you have your multicellular parasites. These are non-microscopic, so these you can actually see with the naked eye. And what they do is they are going to live in the host, and they kind of feed off of the host. They grow in size as often as you eat, you're actually feeding that parasite, and it is going to grow as the nutrients are provided for you. So one of the most common ones is going to be a tapeworm, but you also have lung flukes, liver flukes, blood flukes, hookworms, whipworms, pinworms, and all of that. So remember that we have our eosinophils that are supposed to go in and be specialized at killing these off. Sometimes they're not that great because some individuals can get a tapeworm or something like that, and the eosinophils aren't going to be strong enough to kill it off. So really it just depends on the parasite and the individual as well. Let's take a look at these things called prions. So prions are neither cells nor viruses. They're like these little fragments of infectious proteins. And what they do is they cause something called a fatal neurodegenerative disease. So as you can see, brain shrinkage and deterioration occurs rapidly. One of the most commonly known one, I guess I should say, is this Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Also known as mad cow disease. It can be spread from cows to humans if a human eats infected meat. So that's going to be one way that you can get it. Another one that is caused by prions is going to be kuru. I'm going to connect that, kuru as well. So this is another interesting infectious agent here. So what we're going to be taking a look at next is we're going to do an overview of the immune system. We're going to be taking a look at those cells and those molecular structures that are going to be involved in the immune system. And then we're going to be taking a look at the two main defense systems that we are going to have in the body. So until next time.